The city had a rhythm, and Maya knew it well, the thrum of neon lights reflecting on rain-slicked streets, the distant sirens, the quiet hum of life that went on even when danger lurked in every shadow. She had walked these streets 1,000 times, yet tonight felt different. Tonight, she was about to meet a man who could either save her or destroy her.
Welcome to our channel. Sit back and enjoy this video, and don't forget to add your comments. We promise to bring more videos that will make your watching worthwhile.
Completely. Maya's heels clicked against the wet asphalt as she approached the small, almost unnoticeable door at the end of a narrow alley. Her breath came in shallow bursts, not just from the walk, but from the weight of what she was about to face. She had debts that weren't hers alone, but that of her family debts that had grown into a looming shadow over every decision she made. And the man behind those debts, Victor Romano, controlled everything in this city. Victor was more than a mafia boss. He was a force of nature, tall, impeccably dressed, with eyes that seemed to pierce through walls and souls alike. He had a reputation that made even the most hardened criminals hesitate. They whispered about him in corners, spoke of him in fear, yet no one dared openly defy him. And now, he was waiting for her. The door creaked as Maya stepped inside, and the dim light revealed a room shrouded in smoke and shadows. Victor stood by a large desk, leaning casually, one hand holding a cigar that glowed faintly in the dark. His gaze fixed on her the moment she entered, and Maya felt an almost physical pull under the weight of his stare. "You're late," he said, his voice low, smooth, commanding. There was no anger in it, only an unmistakable authority. "I traffic," Maya managed to say, though her voice sounded smaller than she intended. Victor didn't smile. He simply exhaled smoke, letting it curl around his face like a living thing. "Maya," he said finally, as if saying her name out loud was a privilege. "I've heard a lot about you, but hearing and seeing are different things." She shifted slightly, trying to maintain her composure. "I do what I must." "Do you?" he asked, stepping forward slowly. The faint click of his polished shoes on the hardwood floor seemed louder than it should have been. "You think you know the game, but you don't. The game knows you, and tonight, you're playing on my board." Maya's heart hammered in her chest, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I'm not here to play games." Victor's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile, dangerous and calculating. "Nothing about this is a game, Maya. You owe a lot, and I am patient, but patience has limits." From her bag, Maya retrieved a folder, shaking slightly. She placed it on his desk, watching as he opened it slowly. Inside were documents, photographs, a record of debts, missed payments, threats she had received, evidence she had collected in secret. Victor scanned it, his eyes narrowing with a mixture of interest and appraisal. "You've been busy," he said finally, leaning back in his chair. "I like that. It shows initiative." Maya swallowed hard. "I'm trying to protect my family, that's all." "Protection comes at a price," he said. "And sometimes, the price is higher than you expect." The room was silent except for the distant sound of rain tapping against the windows and the soft hiss of the radiator. Maya could feel the tension in the air, like a live wire. She knew the stakes. One wrong move, one misstep, and she wouldn't just lose money, she could lose everything. Victor stood and walked around the desk, each step deliberate. "Tell me," he said, stopping just a few feet from her. "Do you know why I'm interested in you?" Maya's mind raced. Was it because of her courage, her cleverness, or did he see something darker in her, something dangerous that matched his own? "I don't know," she said honestly. He leaned closer, so close that the faint scent of his cologne hit her smoky, sharp, intoxicating. "Because you're not afraid of me. Most people are. Most people crumble before I even speak. You stand. That's rare." Her pulse quickened. Part of her wanted to step back, to escape the magnetic danger he exuded. Another part wanted to step closer, to challenge him, to prove she wasn't just another pawn in his world. "Stand all you want," he said, reading her thoughts like a book. "But in my world, standing isn't enough. You must act. And sometimes, act in ways you never imagined." He picked up a photograph from the folder, turning it slowly in his hand. It was a picture of her younger brother, a reminder of why she was here, why she had come. The flicker of concern in Victor's eyes, almost imperceptible, was there, then gone. "You've been making choices, Maya," he said quietly. "Some smart, some risky. But it's the risks that interest me." Maya felt a flicker of defiance. "I've done what I had to do. I won't apologize for that." Victor's smile widened, dangerous and magnetic. "Good. I like defiance. It keeps things interesting. But you need to understand one thing. Interest can be dangerous." The room seemed to shrink around them. Maya could feel the tension like a tangible weight pressing on her chest. Every nerve in her body screamed to run, but she stayed. She had no choice. Not really. Not when the safety of her family was on the line. "You will do exactly what I say," Victor continued, his voice a low rumble that seemed to echo off the walls. "And in return, I will protect you. But cross me, Maya, and there will be consequences you cannot imagine." Maya nodded, feeling the cold weight of reality settle on her shoulders. "I understand." Victor leaned back, taking a slow drag of his cigar. "Good. Then we begin." For the next hour, they discussed arrangements, threats, debts, and plans. Maya realized how little she knew about the man in front of her. Victor Romano was more than a boss. He was a strategist, a predator, and a man who could smell fear and courage alike. And as she left the room later that night, rain soaking her coat, she knew one truth: her life had changed forever. Outside, the city was alive with lights, noise, and danger. Maya walked into the night, heart racing, mind spinning. Victor's words echoed in her head. Interest can be dangerous. She didn't know if he meant her, herself, or both, and she didn't care. Because Maya had a choice now: fight, submit, or play the game on Victor's terms. She didn't yet know which she would choose. But one thing was certain: the city, the Mafia, and Victor Romano were about to pull her into a world she could never escape. The night was unforgiving. Rain fell in sheets, turning the streets into rivers of light that reflected neon signs like shattered glass. Maya's coat clung to her skin, drenched, but she barely felt it. Her mind was occupied with one thought: Victor Romano. Every time she tried to replay the night in her head, his presence lingered, every movement, every word, every sharp glance that seemed to read her soul. She had come to him seeking protection, yet part of her wondered if she had walked straight into a trap. The first step into his world was subtle, almost invisible. Victor had arranged a meeting the next morning, no location revealed until the last moment. Maya waited in a small cafe, her fingers wrapped around a cup of coffee she barely tasted. Then her phone buzzed. A single message: "The harbor. Noon. Come alone." Alone. Her stomach twisted. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, but it was the only lead she had to ensure her family's safety. By the time she arrived, the harbor was deserted except for the faint hum of cargo ships and the distant lapping of water against the docks. Mist hung over the water, thick enough to blur shapes, making the world feel unreal. "Late," a familiar voice said from the shadows. Maya froze. There he was, Victor Romano. Dark suit, coat over his shoulders, his eyes glinting in the fog like a predator in the mist. "You should have called," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. Victor stepped closer, hands in his pockets. "And ruin the surprise? Where's the thrill in that?" Maya's stomach knotted. "I don't play games." "Ah," he said softly, circling her like a hawk. "You play, whether you admit it or not. Survival is the oldest game there is." She studied him, trying to read the man beneath the legend. Everything about him screamed control, every word, every gesture. Yet in his eyes, she caught something else: curiosity, almost admiration. Victor extended his hand. "Come with me. If you survive the next hour, you'll understand more about what it means."
To be protected. Maya hesitated. The docks were silent except for the echo of their steps. Every creak of the wooden planks underfoot made her heart race. Following him meant stepping fully into his world, into danger, into rules she didn't understand, into a life she wasn't sure she wanted. But she had no choice. They moved through warehouses and shipping containers, shadows stretching across the ground like dark fingers. The smell of salt water mixed with oil and rust, heavy and metallic. Maya's nerves screamed at her. This wasn't just a test of courage. It was a test of survival. Victor stopped suddenly near a stack of crates. From the shadows, two men emerged. Their faces were masked, their postures tense, ready. Maya's pulse spiked. "These men are," she started. "Discipline," Victor interrupted, his tone clipped. "They're my eyes, my hands, my ears. And tonight, they are your first lesson." Maya's heart raced. "A lesson?" "Yes," Victor said, his gaze unwavering. "A lesson in trust, danger, and control. Observe carefully. Learn quickly. One mistake, and it's not just you who suffers." The men stepped forward, circling Maya. Her instincts screamed to run, but Victor's presence anchored her. She realized that for the first time in her life, she was seeing the raw machinery of power at work. Not in stories, not in whispers, but in flesh and blood, in shadows and movements. Victor's voice broke her thoughts. "Do not move until I say so." Time slowed. The world narrowed to the space between her and the masked men. She could feel the tension in their muscles, the silent threat in every step. And then Victor stepped between them, his presence commanding, like a wall she couldn't pass. "Watch carefully, Maya," he said softly. "Power is not just fear. Power is precision. Power is knowing what to do before others even know they're in danger." One of the men lunged suddenly, a blur of movement. Maya flinched instinctively, heart pounding. But Victor was faster, intercepting the attack with brutal efficiency. The man fell back, stunned, while Victor's eyes met hers. "Do you see?" he asked. "Everything is calculated. Nothing is random. Mistakes are expensive." Maya swallowed hard. Her body was trembling, but she forced herself to stay composed. I understand." Victor nodded slowly. "Good. Now come with me." They moved deeper into the dockyard, where crates towered like urban canyons. Victor spoke quietly, explaining the hierarchy of his world, the dangers, the alliances, and betrayals. Maya listened intently, every word sinking in. She realized that survival here required not just courage, but intelligence, observation, and nerves of steel. Suddenly, a sound, metal scraping against metal, echoed through the warehouse. Victor froze. Maya felt a cold spike of fear. A third party? Or a trap? Victor's hand went to the side of his coat. Maya's heart leapt. He wasn't armed for show. He was ready. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, someone Victor hadn't anticipated. A rival gang member, bold and reckless, holding a gun that caught the dim light. Victor's gaze hardened. "Step aside, Maya." "No," she said instinctively. I can help." Victor turned, studying her. For a fraction of a second, she thought he might stop her. Then he nodded slightly. "Fina, watch closely." What followed was a blur. Victor's movements were precise, ruthless, a deadly dance that left the rival disarmed and on the ground before he could even react. Maya's stomach churned with a mixture of fear and awe. When a man was secured, Victor turned to her. "Do you see the difference between panic and control? Between fear and strategy?" "Yes," she whispered. I see it." He stepped closer, voice low, almost intimate. "Tonight was just the beginning. You will face more tests, more threats, and each one will demand everything you have. Are you ready, Maya?" Her body was shaking, but she held his gaze. I have to be." Victor's lips curved into the faintest, most E. The city had a pulse of its own, and Maya felt it thrumming through her veins as she walked the deserted streets. Night had fallen again, but it wasn't the darkness that made her uneasy. It was the feeling that every shadow was watching, waiting. Every alley, every flickering streetlight seemed to whisper secrets she didn't want to hear. Since the docks, her life had changed. The night with Victor Romano had opened a door she couldn't close, and each step deeper into his world made her heart race faster. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning, adapting, and discovering a strength she hadn't known existed. Yet even as she walked, the weight of her family's safety pressed on her. Her younger brother, Tay, still relied on her. Her mother's health, her father's debts, all of it rested on her shoulders. And she knew that if she misstepped in Victor's world, her family wouldn't just suffer, they could die. Victor had sent a message earlier that evening. Meet me at the estate. Midnight. Come alone. Alone. Again. Maya's stomach twisted. She was learning to trust, to calculate, but the stakes were higher now. The estate was not just a home. It was a fortress. High walls, guards, surveillance everywhere. And Victor himself, a man whose patience had limits she couldn't yet measure, was inside, waiting. When Maya arrived, the gates opened silently, almost as if expecting her. The driveway stretched before her, lined with manicured hedges and faintly glowing lanterns. Victor's world was beautiful, almost unreal, but every perfect detail carried a hint of danger. Inside, the air was warm and scented with leather and old books. Victor was there, seated in a chair by the fireplace, eyes fixed on her as she entered. The flickering light painted shadows across his sharp features, making him seem both human and otherworldly at once. You came, he said simply. No accusation, no praise, just a statement. I wouldn't miss it, Maya replied, trying to steady her voice. Leaned forward, steepling his fingers. Good, because tonight you learn what loyalty really means. Maya's brow furrowed. Loyalty, yes, Victor said. Loyalty isn't blind obedience. It's choice. It's sacrifice. It's knowing what you're willing to risk and doing it anyway. Before she could respond, the door opened again, and two men entered, carrying a large case. Victor gestured for them to set it on the table. Maya glanced at it, curiosity mingling with apprehension. What is this? She asked. Victor didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened the case himself. Inside were photographs, documents, and a small folder marked in red. Victor Romano, collateral. Maya's heart skipped a beat. Her brother's name stared back at her in crisp black letters. You wanted protection, Victor said quietly, almost gently. But protection comes with responsibility. And responsibility sometimes means confronting your past and your fears. Maya's throat went dry. What do you want me to do? Victor leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. Tonight, you must make a choice. Will you help me recover something that belongs to me, or protect your family and walk away? Her mind raced. This wasn't just a test of loyalty. It was a moral crucible. She could feel every instinct screaming in different directions. Helping Victor could put her family at risk, but refusing him could mean losing everything. Why me? She asked, barely above a whisper. Why involve me? Victor's eyes softened just slightly. Because you're not like the others. You think, you plan, you adapt. And because I trust you. Trust. The word echoed in her mind. Could she trust a man like Victor Romano? A man whose hands were soaked in the city's darkest dealings? Could she trust herself to make the right choice? Maya spent hours with him, poring over the documents, memorizing the faces in the photographs, the names, the details. Every detail mattered. Every decision could tip the balance between life and death. As the night deepened, Victor leaned back and studied her. You're learning quickly, he said, but intelligence alone isn't enough. You need courage, intuition, and a willingness to step into danger without knowing if you'll survive. I can do that, Maya said, though doubt gnawed her. Victor's smile was faint, almost approving. We'll see. Tonight, you face your first real trial. The task was simple in concept, but deadly in execution. Retrieve a package from a rival gang's hideout, a place crawling with men who had no qualms about killing intruders. Maya's training, instincts, and every lesson Victor had imparted would be tested. When she arrived, the hideout was alive with activity. Shadows moved like predators, and the smell of smoke and metal filled the air. Maya's pulse hammered in her ears. One wrong step could be fatal. Using every trick she had learned from Victor, Maya navigated the maze of corridors and warehouses. She observed patterns, noted guard rotations, and stayed in shadows, moving silently, every sense heightened. Finally, she found the package. Her hands shook as she lifted it, adrenaline flooding her veins. The sound of a footstep behind her froze her. Going somewhere, a voice sneered. Maya spun around. Two men blocked her path, weapons drawn. Her mind raced. Fight or flee. Victor's lessons echoed in her head. Calm, precise, decisive. She made her choice. Using a mix of distraction and agility, Maya managed to slip past them, clutching the package tightly. Her heart pounded as she ran through the corridors, her every move calculated, every second critical. When she finally returned to Victor, he was waiting, his eyes sharp and evaluating. "You survived," he said simply. "Yes," Maya said, breathing hard. But it was close. Victor stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "You did well. But remember, this is just the beginning. There are deeper dangers, greater betrayals, and harder choices ahead."
Maya looked at him, the weight of the night pressing on her. She knew he was right. She had crossed a line. She had entered a world where survival depended not just on courage, but on cunning, loyalty, and sometimes ruthlessness. And somewhere deep inside, she realized that she was beginning to feel something for Victor. Something dangerous, forbidden, and intoxicating. The first light of dawn barely penetrated the city's smog and rain-streaked windows. Maya sat alone in her small apartment, the package from the rival gang still clutched in her hands. She had survived her first trial, but her mind raced with every possible consequence. Victor's world wasn't forgiving, and she knew that even a single mistake could cost her everything. Her phone vibrated. A single message, terse and chilling. "They know. Be careful." Maya's stomach twisted. The rival gang, Victor's enemies, or someone else entirely. She had barely caught her breath after the last mission, and already the danger was mounting. She tucked the package away, careful not to damage it, and stepped out into the wet streets. The city seemed quieter than usual, but Maya knew better. Quiet was a warning, and in Victor's world, warnings were often preludes to bloodshed. By noon, Victor's limousine pulled up outside her building. He stepped out, the morning light catching on the sharp lines of his face, making him appear both untouchable and terrifying. Maya climbed in silently, her mind still reeling from the night's adrenaline. "You look tired," Victor said softly, though there was a hint of amusement in his voice. "I am," Maya admitted. "But I'm learning." Victor's eyes flicked to hers, sharp and unreadable. "Good. Learning is the first step. Adaptation comes next." The ride was silent, the city rushing past in a blur of gray and neon. Victor didn't speak again until they arrived at an abandoned warehouse near the edge of town. The air was thick with the scent of rust and smoke. Shadows
Washing over her. What happened? Victor's eyes never left hers. "Marco made a deal behind my back. He betrayed me. And your presence here is proof that loyalty must be tested, even among those closest to us." Marco looked up, guilt etched across his face. I didn't mean for it to go this far." Victor's hand shot out, slamming against the desk with a force that rattled the papers. "Don't speak. You've endangered everything we've built." Maya stepped back, heart pounding. She had faced danger before, but this was different. This was betrayal, personal and intimate, the kind that could unravel everything she was trying to protect. Victor's gaze softened slightly as he looked at her. "Maya, watch carefully. This is what happens when trust is broken. And this is why you must learn to survive in my world. Not just with skill, but with instinct." Maya nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. She realized that every lesson Victor had imparted wasn't just about survival. It was about navigating a world where loyalty was rare and betrayal could come from anywhere. Suddenly, the warehouse doors burst open, and a group of armed men stormed in. Maya's eyes widened. These were not Marco's allies, nor Victor's. These were mercenaries well-trained and clearly hired to create chaos. Victor's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Stay close. Watch. Learn." Maya felt her heart race as bullets ricocheted off metal crates. Victor moved with terrifying precision, disarming one man, using the environment to his advantage, and never once losing control. Maya realized that his reputation was not a myth. He was lethal, unstoppable, and calculating in ways she had never imagined. As the fight continued, Maya instinctively moved, ducking behind crates, watching and learning. She realized that Victor's world required more than courage. It demanded intelligence, timing, and the ability to stay calm under pressure. When the last mercenary was down, Victor turned to her. His eyes were intense, unreadable. You saw that? Every action, every decision has consequences. And tonight, you faced the first real test of your instinct. Maya's body shook with adrenaline. I understand. But why me? Why put me through this? Victor's lips curved into a faint, dangerous smile. Because you're capable. You have the potential to survive and maybe even thrive in a world most people would die trying to navigate. But there's more. You must also understand, trust is not given lightly, and betrayal is inevitable. The weight of his words pressed down on her. She had survived, but she was learning that every victory in Victor's world came with a cost, sometimes emotional, sometimes moral, and sometimes deadly. As they walked back through the rain-soaked streets, Maya realized something else. Her feelings for Victor were shifting. Danger, intensity, and admiration were mixing into something she didn't yet understand. A magnetic pull that drew her closer, even as she knew it could destroy her. When they arrived at her apartment, Victor turned to her, eyes dark and unreadable. Rest, Maya. You'll need every ounce of strength for what comes next. Betrayal, enemies, and the shadows. None of it will wait. Speech balloon
And neither will
cliffhanger
I.
for engagement. Maya nodded,
Maya
feeling the chill of the
betrayal
night
and
sink
attack.
into her bones. But what will happen?
She knew he
when
was
someone
right.
from her past
She had stepped
fully into Victor's
threatening
world,
everything
a world
she's
of
fought to
power,
protect,
danger. What would you
and
do if
moral
trust
ambiguity.
was broken?
And
in
as
your
much
life?
as she wanted to
And the
resist,
shadows were
a
waiting. A
part
part of her was already captivated, drawn into the darkness, into Victor, into a life she couldn't yet leave behind. The morning sun pierced through the curtains of Maya's apartment, but she barely noticed. Her mind was consumed by the events of the night before. The mercenaries, Marco's betrayal, and Victor's cold, precise dominance. Every detail played in her mind like a movie she could not pause. She thought she had been prepared for danger, but nothing could have readied her for the feelings that stirred whenever Victor was near. A pull, magnetic and confusing, that whispered both caution and curiosity. A sharp knock on the door startled her. She stiffened. Visitors were rare, almost always dangerous. She approached cautiously, peeking through the peephole. It was a man, mid-30s, dressed in a worn leather jacket, with a familiar face that made her heart skip. It took her a moment to recognize him. Damien, a figure from her past she had hoped never to see again. Joyce, no, Maya, he said, his voice low and urgent. I need your help. Maya's pulse quickened. Damien wasn't just a stranger. He carried the weight of a past she had tried to forget. Memories of debt, broken promises, and a life that almost destroyed her. Her hands shook slightly as she opened the door. What are you doing here? She asked cautiously. Enemies, Damien said, glancing over his shoulder. They're after me, and I think they're connected to Victor. Maya froze. The thought was terrifying. Victor's enemies intersecting with her past. Her mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't wanted to think about. I can't help you, she said firmly. Not now. Not while I'm involved with him. She hesitated, swallowing hard. Victor, Damien's eyes darkened. You think he'll protect you? Victor Romano doesn't care about anyone but himself. You're already in too deep. Maya's chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to insist she knew Victor, that he was different, that he had given her protection. But Damien's words dug into her mind, feeding her doubts. Could she trust anyone in this world? Victor, herself, or even Dammy? Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A single, chilling message. Damien is not who he seems. Watch him. Her stomach dropped. Victor. Watching. Always watching. Her pulse quickened as fear and adrenaline collided in a dizzying swirl. She had stepped into a world where alliances shifted in seconds, and the man she trusted most might already be controlling the strings of her every move. The next few hours were a blur. Damien revealed fragments of his story, threats, mysterious attacks, and enemies who seemed to have connections to Victor's world. Maya listened, torn between helping someone she once trusted and maintaining the fragile, deadly balance with Victor. Victor's call came later. His voice was calm, but edged with a steel that made her shiver. "You've been in contact with someone from your past," he said. "Damien." "Yes." Maya hesitated. "Yes, but—" "No excuses," he interrupted. "Everything you do is noted, Maya. I protect you, but I do not forgive recklessness. Choose wisely." The weight of his words pressed on her. She realized that survival in Victor's world wasn't just about courage or skill. It was about judgment, loyalty, and the willingness to sacrifice personal feelings for the greater game. That night, Maya met Damien in a secluded alley. He was tense, desperate, and clearly hiding something. "I need you to come with me," he said urgently. "There's something you need to know about Victor, about the people he's fighting, and about your family." Maya's breath caught. "I can't. Not yet. I have obligations. And I trust someone." Damien stepped closer. "Maya, I'm warning you. You think Victor is the protector, but there are shadows in his world that even he cannot control. If you keep playing by his rules, you might lose more than just trust." Maya's mind swirled with doubt, fear, and a growing realization. Her world had become a chessboard, and she was both a piece and a player. Every move mattered. Every choice carried consequences, and the stake were life and death. She returned to her apartment, shaken, conflicted, and exhausted. But sleep didn't come. Her thoughts kept returning to Victor, his gaze, his voice, the thrill of danger that came with him. And beneath it all, an attraction she couldn't deny, a pull that was as dangerous as it was irresistible. The following day, Victor arrived at her apartment unannounced. His presence filled the room, commanding and suffocating all at once. "You've been busy," he said, voice low and dangerous. "With Damien." "I see." Maya's throat tightened. He came to me. I didn't seek him out." Victor's eyes darkened, unreadable. "Careful, Maya. Past ghosts have a way of turning into present nightmares. And I do not take kindly to threats, real or perceived, against those I protect." The word protect hung in the air, heavy and charged. Maya felt the pull between them, the magnetic tension that made every nerve in her body electric. She realized that danger and desire were intertwined in Victor's world, and that her feelings for him could be as deadly as any enemy. That night, as rain pelted the windows, Maya sat alone, clutching a photograph Damien had given her, a photograph linking Victor to a rival gang she hadn't known existed. The truth was murky, the lines between friend and foe blurred, and the game she had entered was more complex than she could have imagined. Her phone buzzed again. A single message. "Trust is earned. Betrayal is punished. Choose wisely, Maya." Maya knew then that the shadows of her past had collided with her present, and the choices she made next could determine not just her survival, but the survival of everyone she loved. Maya's past has returned in the form of Damien, but can she trust him? Or will Victor's world swallow her whole? What would you do if someone from your past threatened the life you're building now? If you like more of this video narrative, subscribe to our channel, comment, and tap the notification button so you don't miss any of our videos.